and welcome to the Vine Life Podcast. I'm Tony Clark, your host. I've got a special guest today on the program, and his name is Trey Calloway. Now, Trey is a North Carolina-grown and Nashville-based singer, musician, and also a very talented songwriter. He's opened shows for Joe Diffie, Tracy Lawrence, McBride The Ride, and many, many more. He's also won Songwriter of the Year at the Texas Country Music Awards. He's had a music video featured on CMT, and it's also approaching around 3 million streams on Spotify alone. More information about Trey can be found at TreyCallawayMusic.com. Trey, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Tony. It's an honor to be here, buddy.
Absolutely. I wanted to have you on. Now, as I'm looking at the calendar, today is June 27th, 2025. I think you've got a new song that comes out today. Is that correct?
I sure do, brother. It's called She Don't Break It. Well, she don't break it like she used to. That's the gist of the song, buddy. Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. Everybody's loving it so far, too. I mean, probably this might be the most buzz we've ever gotten on a single.
Tell me about that. Tell me about the writing process. How did this song come about?
So I had this hook bouncing around in my little note. I keep all my notes in my phone. Anytime somebody says anything in conversation, the kind of the way I write is if you and I are having a conversthis and you say something that sounds catchy, like maybe alliteration or something like that, just sounds hooky. I'll write it down and then I'll throw it out at a write. And I had this hook bouncing around. It was they don't make them like they used to, and I was maybe going to make the song about they don't make trucks like they used to, or they don't make love like they used to, or something. I didn't know what I was going to go with it, but I threw it out with I wrote the song with Terry and Brandon Hood, my new producer, and he's the one that produced this record. And Brandon said, "Well, how about she don't break it like she used to?" And I was like, "Man, that's never been said before. That's good stuff." So we ended up just writing that one, and of course Terry's from Texas. I'm not from Texas, but I do love a good shuffle, just like most country music fans. Shuffles are back in style, so I'm glad to see that happening. And so we wrote this little Texas-style shuffle that I think would make George Strait proud if he heard it. So, yeah, man, it went well, and I knew almost immediately that I wanted to record it, and Brandon and I went and did 7 songs. We're working on a new album, and this is the second single off that new album. And, man, I'm loving every minute of it. Things are happening fast. Things are picking up fast, and it's almost overwhelming sometimes. I just hop off the phone with my wife right before I called you, and we're going to be spending a week down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Her and I have a house there. And that's actually where we met. She lives there, and I live here in Nashville. We've been doing long distance for a while. And, yeah, man, so I'm going to be taking a week off and going celebrating this great country of ours. And I haven't been to many tropical places. I grew up, we weren't poor, but we didn't have money for fancy vacations and stuff. So ever since I married her, just kind of let loose, and we go on vacations and stuff when we can afford it. But we went to St. Lucia and climbed the Gros Piton. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but it's this big mountain that they've got there. And it about killed me. But I made it. So that was the highlight of our honeymoon. And it was a great time, man. She's better than I deserve. She's from the great state of Ohio. She's a big old Buckeyes fan. She's a Buckeye alumni, so she went to Ohio State, and she bleeds scarlet and gray, man. And my dad raised that's funny enough. My dad raised me an Alabama fan because we don't have no football teams to pull for. So my dad grew up an Alabama fan. We always pull for Alabama because I have some family from Alabama as well, and so we've always been Roll Tide. So football season's kind of rough for us if Alabama's doing good. Of course, I always pull for the Bucks for her, but she'll never pull for the Tide for me.
That kind of sparks a question in my mind. You're newly married. You're on the road a lot. Just looking at your schedule, you're all over the place, touring and traveling. How do you juggle that, being a fairly newlywed husband and with a family there, and also having to travel? How does that work?
Well, it's tough. I think if I'm being the most honest with you on this podcast. I think when you fall in love with somebody who is a musician, or anybody really that's passionate about their career and they happen to travel a lot, you're going to have to realize that this person that I'm in love with is also in love with something else. And, and I do my very best because I also have an 11-year-old son. Well, he's turning 11 here in a couple of months, but I have a 10-year-old son who lives in Charlotte. I was married once before, and I have a son from that marriage also. So I juggle being a dad and being a husband as well as being a country singer, and it's hard. There's no way to get around it. I always try to put family first, and I usually succeed, but my family is so forgiving and so understanding, and they've especially Raina, my wife, she's pushed me to chase my dreams. There was a time when I was ready to give up, right around the time we met, I had moved back to the beach from Nashville, and that's when the pandemic had hit. And, I was just like, man, screw this. I'm done with this big dream, and I was just going to stay at the beach and be a beach bum musician and just drink margaritas and play at some beach bar somewhere for the rest of my career. And that was going to make me happy, But she's the one that said, no, you can't give up. These songs that you write and your music deserves to be heard. So 3.5 years later, here I am. And I'm so glad that I listened to her, because things are really starting to roll, and the momentum's picking up fast. It's everybody thinks that success in the music business is one giant break or one big thing's going to happen, and that's going to set me on my way. But it doesn't happen that way. It's a million little baby steps, and they all form together to create a career. And so I've been fortunate enough to have some wonderful people on my team that help me along and guide me, steer me away from the sharks and steer me away from the bad decisions. And I've been very fortunate, and I'm just hanging on for dear life, man. I think they're trying to kill me sometimes. They're working me to death, but I love it. It's what I signed up for, so I can't really complain too much.
Well, one of the things in investigating your career and listening to your great music,
thank you, sir,
here in the past few days is one of the things that kind of separates you is you're an actual songwriter as well, and not to knock those that are up there performing that aren't great songwriters. They can have a lot of talent, but you also write songs as well. Tell me about the songwriting process. How do you do that? How do you?
Well, I love talking about this, and it's funny that you call me a songwriter, because they've told me to stop saying this, but I'm not going to stop saying it because it's the truth. And I can't be conceited about something that's not true. So I have been fortunate enough to become friends with some songwriters that are just absolute poets and genius. And I'm the medium that gets to deliver that song. And that's what I love. I'll sing the mess out of it. I'll get up there on stage and I'll perform the mess out of it. But I cannot take credit. A lot of times when I write great songs, I might have the idea. And everybody says, no, Trey, you're full of it. You're a good songwriter. But I don't feel it. I look at my buddies and I see them on stage playing and I go, man, that guy or that girl, man, they really know how to string words together. And so I appreciate you saying that. Maybe one of these days I'll get comfortable with the idea of somebody calling me a songwriter. But right now, man, I see people that I go, man, I'll never write a song like that. I'll never be able to put that hook in there like that. But, the funny thing about this new album is that, so we've done 7 for the album so far. We'll probably end up doing about 10, I guess, for the new album, 10 to 12. And 4 of the 7 that we did, I didn't write. They were outside cuts. They were brought to me by my new producer, and he said, man, these are great songs. Nobody's ever recorded them. Or Gary Allen put it on his last album, and there were no singles off of it. There's a song that we've got in the can right now called Slide that was on a Gary Allen album, and it's such a great song, and it never really got anything done with it. And so Brandon said, man, we ought to do a version of this one. So we did it, and we're going to release our own version of it. But that was the first experience with outside cuts I'd ever had, because I, for the longest time, saying, hey, nobody's going to write songs for me, so I need to get out there and write them myself. But it's good to have people. It's a good feeling to have people saying, hey, I think you'd be great singing this song. It makes my job a little easier. And, I've always subscribed to the format, the George Strait format. You know what I mean? Without Dean Dillon, there wouldn't have been a George Strait. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best songwriters in the world can't sing a lick, can barely play the guitar. They get stage fright real easy. And, it took a Dean Dillon and George Strait kind of combination to build that career, And so I've always been like, hey, man, I'd love for somebody to line up and bring me songs. I'm all about it. And we always, I saw Drew Baldridge. I don't know if you know who that is. He had that She's Somebody's Daughter song that blew up. He went #1 as an independent artist, and then he got his record deal from that. But he was teaching a seminar at Tin Pan, which is a songwriting convention here in Nashville. And I went for the first time and saw him play and got to meet him, talk to him. And, he said, if you got a song you think I need to hear, you send it to me on Instagram. Send it to me day or night. I'll at least listen to it. And we've always tried to be like, we'll listen to the song. Somebody sends me something, we'll at least hear it out. Because if you're not willing to listen to a great song, then you're no better than all of the people that shut you down when you first moved to Nashville. Because you get that a lot. You come here and you're a nobody, you're green, you don't know anybody. And you say, hey, man, I'm a songwriter or I'm a singer and I'm looking for songs to put on my record. And they're like, well, kid, you got about 3 more, 4 more, 5 more years before I'll work with you. And But it's good. It's good because it makes you work for something. It pushes you and drives you, and it always drives me. It never discourages me. It always drives me. So yeah, man. But I really appreciate you calling me a songwriter. One of these days, maybe I'll be able to get comfortable with that idea. But I really appreciate you saying it, Tony. I'll never tell you.
Well,
not
you
to
talk
say
about
it, man.
you talk about great combinations. Elton John and Bernie Taupin.
100%.
You can't get better than that in terms of the great. The great Beethoven, or if you will, on the piano, and the songs from the 70s. Well, Bernie Taupin wrote those lyrics.
Absolutely.
So, hey, you do what you can, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think the biggest lesson that any young artist can learn is that it takes a team to make one artist or one band successful. It takes a whole bunch of people. And the second you start thinking you're doing everything by yourself, you're in for a world of hurt, because you need friends, man. This is a town built on friendships and built on relationships. And I've had the great fortune to make some really great friends that I feel like I'm going to be friends with for the long run. And I'm blessed and fortunate. It's a tough business, man. I mean, there's no joke about it. I know you talk to artists all the time, man. This is a tough business, and it'll kick you when you're down, but you just got to have that unrelenting force and unrelenting drive, and a little bit, I guess, a little bit of inflated sense of I'm going to make it no matter what. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let anything stop me. That's the story everybody tells about Kenny Chesney, is that when he came to town, there was just nothing that was going to stop him, man. He'd get 100 no's, and he'd just bounce right back, and he'd get one yes, and that's all he needed was that one yes.
Well, and again, it's great that you've got that foundation in your wife that's supporting you and pushing you through it. Another song I've listened to is really very good. It's a recent creation of yours as well. She Misses Being Mrs.
Yes, sir.
In honor of the fallen soldiers. Talk to me a little bit more about that song.
So I wrote that song with my two great friends, Jim Hawkins and Aaron Loy. And the funny story about that song is there's a mysterious fourth ghostwriter, and we know his name. His name is Brett something. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. We're in search to find this guy. We want to credit him as a writer. We want to credit him as a writer. We've got to find him first, though. We know he lives in Florida. But anyway, so Aaron lives in Texas, and is from that area and flies back and forth between Texas to Nashville to write. And he met this guy on the plane, and they got to talking. And the guy said, I'm just going to call him Brett for all intents and purposes. Brett said, I always wanted to be a songwriter, but I never could just find the time. Career and life and family always got in the way of me trying to chase that passion. And but I've always had this hook that is, she misses being Mrs. And he said, I don't even know what to do with it, but it's good and you can have it. If you're a serious songwriter, you can have it and you can do what you want. So he came that day and threw it out. Aaron came and threw it out at the right. And Jim and I we immediately threw out anything we were thinking, because that's a great hook idea. I think it was my idea to make it about a fallen soldier and a wife. The main character is the widow of the fallen soldier. And it's about these two kids that meet in high school and they fall in love. And he always has big dreams of being in the military, and he doesn't come home. And she's a war widow now, and so it's a day-to-day. It goes through the day-to-day of her life and what she goes through. And man, it didn't stream super great. I try not to let the streams of songs deter me from what the song represents in the long run. Ballads don't tend to stream super well nowadays, but I've never really cared much about what the world's doing and what the rules are. So we put this song out. We had the idea maybe it won't stream that well, but on TikTok and on social media, it really took off. And I can't tell you, man, countless women and some men who even lost their wives, will comment and say, this song brought me to tears. This song made me think about my husband who was in the military, or my husband that was a truck driver, or not just military, anybody who had lost somebody. And so to me, that gives the song weight in and of itself. And, people can always go back later on and discover songs. So I'm not giving up that the song won't catch fire one of these days, but I'm super proud of that song. That was actually a last-minute addition. We had done 6 songs for the album, and I wrote that one, and Memorial Day was coming up. And so I talked to my team. I was like, hey, I'd really like to record this song and put it out for Memorial Day. And so Brandon, my producer, rushed it. We went and did a quick session and just did the one song, and it's real broken down. It's just acoustic and stand-up bass and just some brushes and my vocal on it, and it's really broken down and acoustic sounding. but I think that's all the song needed. I think it didn't need a big, huge production to get the message across, and it just turned out beautifully.
Oh, it's definitely a beautiful song as we approach July 4th.
Yes, sir.
America, my gosh, baby. Yeah, thank God that we've got the country that we have, and we have so many freedoms, and I think this song will really hit home to those that have lost folks in the military, or just recognizing the folks that are currently in the military, and that they could be in the same boat. God forbid not, but but being thankful for what we have. That's a tremendous song. I like that.
Thank you, sir.
Very good song. Now the next song it really touched me as well. The Ballad of the Righteous and Wrong. And I was watching the lyric video, the illustration of this. That's pretty cool. Tell me about the Ballad of the Righteous and Wrong.
So I wrote that one with Greg Wilson and Hal O'Dell, who wrote Miss Gone by Morning with me, which was on my last album, Wanted Man. And Ballad of Righteous and Wrong and Your Love Is Safe With Me were almost made the Wanted Man album, and they just kind of ended up not being recorded in time. So we just said, well, let's just have a couple of standalone singles. So we had Your Love Is Safe With Me, which went on to be my highest streaming song ever, and it's a love song, pop country song, and everybody loves it. And then the Ballad of Righteous and Wrong, I walked into the room with them two guys one day, and I said, guys, I just don't feel like writing another pop country love song today. I said, let's write something with some teeth, man. Let's write something with some meat, like a Devil Went Down to Georgia, or Poncho and Lefty, a cowboy. Let's write a cowboy murder ballad song. And so we wrote this story about these two brothers. One is an outlaw, and one is a lawman in the Wild West. And one goes one way in life, and the other goes another way in life. And I won't spoil the surprise for you. There's a twist ending. You got to listen through the whole thing, man. And it, honestly, I'm so proud of that. That song was a grand experiment. I'm proud of that song. I played it at my first ever Bluebird. My first ever Bluebird show, which was about a month ago. And man, you could have heard a pin drop in there, dude. That they were all listening, and I love the reaction whenever I get to the twist at the end. Somebody in the crowd always goes, always gasps real loud. So it's always cool, man. I love that song.
In some of your songwriting as well, some of these songs, I think you've got another song about horses and heaven. It kind of reminds me of the last couple of days. I was just scanning through YouTube, and I came across Michael Martin Murphey.
Yeah.
The classic song Wildfire.
Sure.
Those songs that really take you on a journey.
Yes, sir.
Where it takes you to another place, and that kind of that mystical Old West or out on the range with horses. It reminded me of some of his music. I
appreciate that. I think that country music has gotten away a little bit from I don't know the word to use, but necessarily not everything locked in reality. Not everything's got to be, I love you, you love me, we're going to get married and have a family. And everything needs to be that. That there's always a place for that song. But where are the story songs? Where are the big irons? You know what I mean? Where is to the town of Alfredo rode a stranger one fine day? Where is that? I miss those songs. So for me, I've never really given much of a crap about what the rest of everybody else is putting out, man. I'm going to put out what I want to put out, and some of them are going to be good, some of them are not going to be good, but at least it's going to be me, and so I appreciate you liking that Ballad of Righteous and Wrong song, man. I'm proud of that song. And that lyric video was designed by my wife's cousin, Adam Moberger, who went to college to be a graphic designer and a cartoonist. He's incredibly talented artist. He drew all of those pictures by hand, man, and animated the whole thing, and did a great job on that. It really turned out perfect. Maybe one of these days we'll turn it into a Western movie. I think it would be a cool Western.
Well, it definitely talented, and the mixture of the visuals with the lyrics, with the audio, with with your performance is truly amazing. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you're obviously a younger guy. I can say that because I'm much older, but your voice sounds older, sounds more mature, sounds like it's coming from a much more seasoned guy than what you are. So you've got some soul in your persona, your voice. I can hear that.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. I'm curious. I always love to hear about influencers. Just think back for me growing up in the Charlotte area. What were some of your influences? What's some of your go-to music when you're traveling?
Man, I love all kinds of music, honestly, man. So to make a long story short, my father, I grew up in Church of God in a Pentecostal church. My father was a Pentecostal evangelist when I was growing up, and some people out there might not know what evangelist is. It's a traveling preacher. It's a guy who goes to different churches and preaches what are called revivals, which is like a tour for a preacher, basically. Preachers go on tour too. And I grew up singing from about the age of 6 years old. I would sing in front of his congregations, and man, I was always a big ham. I was always the guy who said, "Give me that microphone, and I'm gonna jump in front of everybody and sing." And that has always been a big part of my personality, is being a ham and just not being afraid of the stage, not being afraid of crowds. The more the merrier. The bigger the crowd, the more rush of it is. I started singing about the age of 6 and listened to mostly gospel music. I grew up with a lot of like quartet gospel music and Southern gospel and kind of really bluegrass heavy, being from North Carolina, a lot of bluegrass influence and like the Watchman Quartet, all that kind of stuff, like all those redback hymnals. And then I think around the age of 13, I started to express some interest in country music and got a hold. My mom and dad bought me Greatest Hits. It was a 2-disc set. It was like Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and George Jones and Farron Young and all those guys. And so I started listening to that old classic country first, because my mom and dad wanted me to have a deep-seated sense of what country music was. And then, when I got into high school, I started listening to like the Luke Combses and the Luke Bryans and the Jason Aldeans and the Chris Youngs, which is crazy full circle moment because the next single I've got coming out was written by Chris Young and Anthony Smith. So it's crazy that I grew up listening to Chris Young, and now I'm about to release a song that was written by him, which is a really cool feeling. So we'll be talking about that one here in a couple months, if that's all right with you. But it's crazy full circle moment. So I got into that. And then the 90s country thing for me kind of came a little bit later. I got really into Garth Brooks, and then I got really into George Strait and Alan Jackson. And my mom absolutely loves Mark Chestnut and Clint Black. So she, it was either Duran Duran or Randy Travis or Huey Lewis in the News when I was, riding to school with mom in the morning. Like I love all that 80s synth pop and all the Huey Lewis in the News stuff. I'm a big fan of him. So yeah, it was either that or Randy Travis. So that's kind of a big, those are my biggest influences. But, I'm also a secret metalhead. A lot of people don't know. I love Pantera and Megadeth and Iron Maiden and Ozzy and Dio and all that stuff, man. I really get down with all that metal stuff too. Slipknot. I mean, I like hard metal, and hip hop as well. I mean, I like everything. I like Michael Jackson, and me and my son will be jamming out to some Shaka Khan. Sometimes I'll play Ain't Nobody Love Me Better. I like all kinds of music, man. Rick James and Prince and all that stuff too. So any given day, it depends on what I'm in the mood for. If I'm feeling, country, I'll jam out to some Dan Seals or some Eddie Raven or Alabama. Or if it's a dancing day and I feel like road trip time, I might listen to some classic rock or something like that. Man, I like all kinds of music. It's definitely had an influence with me. I put a lot of pushes, which is a musical term. A lot of my music has pushes, which is on the and instead of on the one. Instead of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, it'll be like 1, 2, 3, ba-bam. It's a push, and that's not really a super country thing. It's more of a rock and metal thing, and but it's all in my honky tonk country songs, And I tried for a long time to figure out why I did that in my songs, but it was just from all that Metallica I grew up listening to, I guess. So.
Yeah, it's all of those great influencers, and it's good, and I'm sure it's good to have more than one influencer because you've got that broad range of music just to kind of piece together and put into music. So yeah, very good. Some of those very good bands and performers that you mentioned. Trey, what talk about your fans? I speak with so many musicians and artists and performers. No matter who they are or what area that they're in, they talk about how great their fans are. Talk about your fans for just a little bit.
They're everything, man. So, I mean, I got really lucky. Before I moved to Nashville, I had moved down to Myrtle Beach. That's where I met my wife. But I was living and playing down there. I had a band, and we were playing all over the North Myrtle Beach, and basically that whole coast region down into Murrells Inlet. And so I built a really solid fan base of people before I really ever even moved to Nashville. And those people have stuck by my side through single after single after single, and just pulled for me. And every time I go back home, if I go, I consider Myrtle Beach to be just as much a home as I do Charlotte. When I go back to Myrtle Beach, you can't find a place in those clubs, man. You can't find a spot to stand. And all those people, when they find out I'm coming to town, man, they all show up. And I've always been the kind of guy, man, you got to take care of the people that believe in you. The people that take care of you, you got to take care of them, man. I'll stay for hours. And I think last time I was there, man, I signed probably 500 autographs in this bar called Captain Archie's, man. They're just the love and support that I've gotten from the people that have been with me from the beginning, all the way from the Carolina Man album. My first album I ever made was called Carolina Man. And I still, to this day, if I go home, you can bet that I'm going to be playing Carolina Man at least 3 times a night, man. That's what they want to hear. And that's the old stuff for me now. That's the old stuff. It's crazy to think that I have old stuff now, but I do, But no, I absolutely adore. I don't really like to, sometimes I don't like to use the term fans because I feel like I'm not a big enough deal to have fans. I want everybody to be my friend. Those people are my friends. They're my family, so You thank you so much. I think you might be the first interviewer that's ever asked me to talk about my fans and my friends. I really appreciate that, Tony. That means a lot to me. I love bragging on the people that have been there with me from the beginning.
Absolutely. And Trey, what's someone may be listening to a podcast only, or they're watching the interview, a video of the interview, and they're saying, I kind of like this guy. I want to learn more about him. What's the best way to support your music? What's the best way to get to learn more about you?
So my website is called TreyCallawayMusic.com, and you can find lots of links to go different places from that website. That's a good home base to start from. The social media platform that I'm the most active on is definitely Instagram. But I'm trying to build my TikTok up and get those TikTok numbers up. You know how the grind of the music business is now today. So I'm trying to build my TikTok. Follow me on there as well as Facebook. I'm all over Facebook as well. Instagram is definitely, if you want to interact with me on a personal basis, Instagram is definitely the best place to do it. And that's Trey Calloway Music on everything.
Absolutely. Trey, your upcoming schedule, what do you have going on? Talk about some of the events that are standing out, and you certainly can't list every venue that you're going to play at off the top of your head, but what you got coming up?
Well, I'm not, as far as touring, I'm not doing much touring this year. I play 5 nights a week in Nashville right now. So if somebody wants to come out and see me play, come out to Nashville, and I'm most nights I'm in some honky tonk somewhere, jamming with the band. We're trying to plan a tour for next year. Next year is really looking to be the year where we say, screw it, we're going to go out and hit the road hard. Working on this new album. We're going to be touring off this new album next year. And I'm trying to hit Texas a lot, trying to come up to the Northeast and, back home to the Carolinas and maybe Virginia. We've even talked to some people about some Virginia dates, in Roanoke or where have you. But also up in Ohio, up in the Midwest, I've got a lot of good club owners up there that are wanting to do some stuff and trying to book some festivals, man. That's how it goes. Touring is a tough situation because it's hard to get a booking agent if you don't have tour history, but it's hard to have tour history if you don't have a booking agent. So it's a catch-22, man. But I know one thing I've learned about the music business is not to stress about the stuff you can't control. I know that when the time comes, the touring's going to start and it's going to come strong. So I'm excited about that day. I'm ready for it. I'm as ready as I'll ever be, man. And as soon as we announce those tour dates, man, you'll be one of the first people that get let know. I can promise you that.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back on when you bring out those new songs and that new music and those tour dates. Now, Trey, again, Trey Calloway at TreyCallawayMusic.com. Be sure to check him out. Check out his music. Definitely talented definitely blessed to have a voice, but not only a great voice, and he's not only a great performer, but he's a great songwriter as well. And Trey, I will ask you to hang on 30 seconds post interview, but I can't thank you enough for coming on the program today.
Thank you, Tony. It's been a pleasure.